Evidence of ancient nuclear wars in Antiquity, and we're going to see a map of the locations, although it doesn't include everything. It doesn't include Santorini, for example, Thera, and Crete. Shocking finds in various parts of the world prove that in ancient times there was a civilization that had nuclear technology and weapons at its disposal, and these became the cause of their destruction. The view that humanity is not reaching the present technological and scientific levels for the first time is very widespread in some cities. Even Einstein himself had once said that the ancient experiments were done once again. The old knowledge was rediscovered. According to the relevant theories, man has reached the peak of his cultural and technological development many times, but due to some catastrophe, he has regressed and started again from the beginning. This is also mentioned by Plato in his work Timaeus, where, narrating Solon's visit to Egypt, he describes a conversation he had with the Egyptian high priest, who said the characteristic phrase, "You Greeks are children forever. You are all new to the soul because you do not remember your ancient traditions," the Egyptian high priest said. "Remember only one flood when many have happened before," the Egyptian high priest told him. From antiquity, then, it's known that many catastrophes have taken place in the course of human history, and that many times civilization has retreated to later take the uphill path again. But at what level had previous civilizations reached? Many scholars claim that in the past, man had achieved achievements similar to or even higher than what we have today. Among them was the use of atomic energy. The biblical Sodom and Gomorrah are said to have been destroyed by such a cause. Something similar happened in other parts of the earth. On the islands of the Pacific, ancient city walls and ruins were discovered in the jungle that were destroyed in such a way that only an atomic bomb could justify it. Similar findings exist in other parts of the world. The most recent of the discoveries concerns a city in ancient India whose end was tragic. The radioactive city. High levels of radioactivity were detected in the area of Rajasthan, India, where construction work was underway on a large housing complex. In the same area, a high incidence of cancer and large number of newborns with severe genetic changes had been observed in previous years. What had happened there? Why did this area have the privilege of radioactivity? Scientific research and archaeological dig finally proved and provided the answer by excavating an ancient city that shows the signs of an atomic catastrophe that took place there 8,000 to 12,000 years ago, destroying most buildings and killing about 500,000 people. One researcher even estimates that the atomic bomb that destroyed the city was similar in size to those that struck Nagasaki, Hiroshima in 1945. In the Mahabharata, the Indian epic, many researchers find descriptions reminiscent of modern warfare: tanks, rockets, atomic bombs, even spacecraft. Among other things, a very large disaster is mentioned very clearly, the description of which refers to an individual explosion. Quote, "The catastrophe came from a flash that seemed to have all the power of the universe and then rose to a pillar of smoke and fire so great that it shone like 10,000 suns together. It was a giant angel of death who in an instant turned the entire tribe to ashes. The bodies burned to such an extent that they became unrecognizable. The hair and nails fell out and ceramics broke and the birds turned white." This could be, end quote, this could be a description of the tragic moments that the people of Nagasaki, Hiroshima experienced, but it's also a description found in ancient texts of Mahabharata. This description once was considered allegorical and mythical, but today more and more scientists believe that it is an authentic historical fact. The Indian historian Kesari Mohan Ganguly says that Indian scriptures are full of similar descriptions that refer to nuclear disasters. There are also reports of flying chariots, what we call spacecraft, and weapons of mass destruction that could destroy entire armies by hurtling soldiers and their elephants like tree leaves. By hurling the soldiers and their elephants like tree leaves. What we now describe as a nuclear mushroom and that explodes at the point where an atomic bomb falls is described in ancient Indian text as a giant umbrella of smoke and fire. Had reached the level of mastering atomic energy. Many ancient texts and especially many findings prove that history is different from what most believe. Archaeologist Francis Taylor, specialized in sacred inscriptions, has discovered texts in temples near the ancient radioactive city of India that call on the gods to save the faithful from the great splendor that destroys everything. British archaeologists said, "It's a pity if one accepts the possibility that some civilizations developed nuclear technology before our time." Why is it a pity? I mean, if that's a reality, that's reality. Whatever destroyed the ancient city in India, however, has an impact to this day, as evidenced by high concentrations of radioactivity. That is why the Indian government blocked the contaminated area and cancelled the construction of the buildings. The rise of cancer and teratogenesis, that is, babies born with a lot of deficiencies, proves that even thousands of years later, a nuclear war can still rage and create new victims. From Atlantis to today, in fact, many are convinced that this technology also existed in ancient Atlantis. And you'll find the playlist of the Emerald Tablets written by Thoth the Atlantean, and he claims that they had such, of course, destructive technology. It's amazing the technology that those Emerald Tablets hold. It's amazing. You should read them. You should listen to the text. You'll be astonished. So, many convinced that the technology used by ancient Atlantis, and that today many people who lived in a previous life on the sunken continent, which was destroyed according to one view by the misuse of knowledge technology, are embodied like atomic energy. And the maps of the places where these nuclear wars took place in Antiquity. There are many theories based on various findings and descriptions from various traditions, claiming that at some point ancient times there was very advanced technology. But what builds these theories is not only legends and mythologies of the peoples that in fact spark the imagination, but above all the findings, the evidence that may be related to those strange stories. Let's look at some examples. According to Daily Star of UK, mysterious glass objects were found in the Scottish desert and could be evidence of a huge atomic explosion thousands of years ago. Ancient Hindu texts describe a global catastrophe caused by the unknown weapon, an iron beam. We're talking about the area of Mohenjo-Daro, about 2000 BC, 2,500 BC. Many believe that one of the strongest evidence of such a disaster is the Libyan desert glass, a type of glass that is said to have formed about 26 to 28 million years ago. Similar fragments of greenish glass can be found about 10 miles from Egypt, and a fragment was found in Tutankhamun's decorative pin. Many scientists believe that this type of glass is part of a comet that entered Earth. The comet touched the ground when it was at a temperature of 200 degrees Celsius. This is a theory, but it has been challenged. Albion W. Hart, engineer of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, says the pieces of glass that ran out in Alamogordo, New Mexico after nuclear tests are the same texture as those found in the Libyan desert. So at the same time, it's claimed that there are not parts of meteorite or comet that fell in the Libyan desert. Libyan desert glass have degrees of transparency purity 99%, which is not typical of comet fusion. A large area of such strange transparent stones also exists in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, including the layers at Nop Nor in China. Various tests show that the radioactive surface and silicon layers do not come from recent tests but go back several million years, long before China became nuclear power. Russian archaeologist Pyotr Kozlov mentioned shiny blue glass walls that had mysteriously melted and were discovered at a depth of 1,800 meters beneath the ruins of the city of Karakoto in western Mongolia. He excavated the sarcophagus containing two well-preserved bodies of a king and a queen, Local tradition reports lightning that fell from the sky and brought to light this excavation. More than 70 ancient stone forts in Scotland have walls where the stone has melted, turning into glass after exposure to intense heat for an extended period of time. One such building can be found in Hill O'North in Scotland, which is famous for its glass walls. Some other examples are an area called Dun Mac Shinken in Argyll, and similar landmarks we found in Benderock in Oban Craig Padrick and Ord Hill in North Kessock, which are close to Inverness. Can all these findings attest to a higher than now anciently technologically advanced civilization that possessed and used nuclear weapons in wars? Did these nuclear wars take place, among other things, extraterrestrial civilizations, as several mythologies around the world suggest, including Greek mythology? Who can say for sure? However, the findings are there and they exist, and they are very compelling. I've translated this from 2 Greek articles. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.